Hi, my name is Lisa Montgomery, writer at herheartforgod.com. This week I'm talking about the Genesis creation story and how it relates to men and women. Some see in the Genesis creation story a hierarchy described between men and women, and others see utmost equality and mutuality between men and women and all humanity, really. If we look in Genesis 1, we see that God created humanity in his image. Male and female, he created them in his image. This denotes their equality between all people. We are all equal because we are all made in God's image. Most people will recognize this. Most people recognize that everyone is equal in value, but then they'll add that men and women have different roles, that they're unequal in the roles that they have and that the things that they can do. But if we just look at the next verse, we can see that really they are equal in role because they're both called to the same things. They're both called to fill the earth, to populate it. They're both called to rule over it, to take care of it. So they're both called to raise children together, and they're both called to rule the earth together. It's not men that are ruling the earth and women that are populating the earth. No, both of them working together makes it all possible. Without them working together, it's not possible. So if all we had was Genesis 1, we would see that men and women are equal in value and they're also equal in role. In Genesis 2, we see a little bit more what happens inside of a marriage relationship, because Adam and Eve would have been the first couple, the first married couple. And we see that Adam is alone. He's alone. There might be animals, but there's no one like him. So God says he's going to create a helper suitable for him, or a helper comparable to him, depending on your translation. And we can see in this and how he describes the woman initially, we can see great strength in the woman. In Hebrew, we have the terms ezer, konegdo. And ezer, translated as help, means help, a strength. It does not come from a place of subordination, but it comes from a place of strength. God is often described in the Bible as our help, our helper, because he saves us. He saves us. It's from a place of strength because he's all powerful. He can do anything. He's the only one who can help us, who can save us. So that woman is described as man's helper is giving her great strength. It's showing like what she's bringing to Adam. She's helping them not be lonely anymore, and she's also needed to help Adam fulfill the command that God gave to humanity. So she's there, yes, to help him. It's to save him from his loneliness. She can give him something that he doesn't have on his own. That's why she's his helper. And because this word is usually used for God or for an army that's coming to help someone, you can almost think that like this woman has this extra strength, and she's greater than Adam. But no, you see, because she's a helper suitable for him. She's a helper comparable. And the Hebrew word konegdo isn't used very often, but it seems to denote this face to face. They're like in front of each other. They're equal, they're mutual, they have this mutual relationship. They're in front of each other. So this text denotes their equality, their mutuality. So we then go out to find out how God made the woman. So he put Adam in this deep sleep. So Adam didn't have anything to do. He was just asleep. And then God took a part of his side and formed a woman out of him. Maybe you've heard this proverb. Let me bring it up. the woman was made of a rib out of the side of Adam, not made out of his head to rule over him, nor of his feet to be trampled upon by him, but out of his side to be equal with him, under his arm to be protected, and near his heart to be beloved. By Matthew Henry. No, I think that's denote this completely. And God goes on to say that the man will leave his family and join to his wife, and they will be one flesh. And this one flesh relationship, and in this one flesh relationship, there is no place for hierarchy. In hierarchy, you need that when there's two separate wills. There's one who's above and the other submits, because they're not united in one. They're not united in one purpose. But if you're one flesh, there's no place for hierarchy. There's really just place for mutuality. You're not separate from one another. Your wills aren't separate. You are really united. You are one flesh, and that's how we are supposed to be in marriage, and how we are in the family of God. We are to be one as Christ is one. I would also note that I really don't see any hierarchy described in the creation story, and that actually the first time we only see hierarchy between the man and the woman is after the fall. It's a consequence of their sin. It doesn't make any sense for God to say to the woman, your desire will be for your husband and he will rule over you, if he was already ruling over her in some way before the fall. This is obviously a perversion of God's good purpose. Like, it's a perversion of the way things were before. Of course, everyone doesn't see it this way. Still, a lot of people see hierarchy in the creation story, and maybe you're wondering where they see it. Well, they see it just in the fact that Adam was created first. So they figure since Adam was created first, he has some kind of authority over the women. But I don't see this talked about directly in the text. I don't see it in the text at all. I think it's coming from a different place, from the idea that the firstborn has privilege. And I think it comes from that idea more than any passage in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament. I can't think of any where God favors the firstborn or sees the firstborn as having more authority. Actually, God goes often against that principle, choosing the lastborn or the secondborn instead of the firstborn. Didn't he choose Jacob over Esau, Moses over Aaron, David over all his brothers? I mean, there's multiple examples of God not choosing the firstborn. For that reason, I don't think that this argument stands very well. Then people will go back to the word I was describing before, Azer, woman described as man's Azer, his helper. They'll see this as describing her more as a helper, as a subordinate, like a servant. Whereas I was discussing before, this term Azer isn't denoting some kind of subservience or submission on the part of the woman. It's really from a place of strength that she's able to help Adam in his loneliness. They'll also look at the fact that after the fall, God spoke to Adam first. He spoke to Adam first because he was the head of the house, and he was responsible for Eve, and he has authority over hers. Like, God is speaking to Adam first. Whereas if we look at it closely, God's addressing Adam for his own sin, and God's addressing Adam for his own sin, and then he addresses Eve for her own sin. He doesn't address Adam for the sin of his wife, so again, I don't really see it in this text. He addresses Adam first because of the order of the text. I think it's more a literary tool than denoting any kind of hierarchy between men or women. It's really not from the text itself. It's more seeing Adam as the head. Oh, you see, Adam was addressed first because he was the head. It's kind of reading into the text your presuppositions. And then some will also say, well, Adam names the woman, and back then, if you were naming something, it was because you had authority over them. For example, Adam named the animals because he was called to rule over the animals. But other than the fact that you just end up comparing the woman to animals, it's very disturbing. But at the same time, he doesn't name her Eve until after the fall. Before that, he just recognizes her as woman and recognizes himself as man, that they're both equal, that they're both the same. So yeah, I don't think this argument is very strong either. And again, it's bringing some idea that's not in the text into the text. Of course, it's looking at the culture around it, but at the same time, it's not evident that this text is expressing that social reality of the time. Often, Jesus went against the common culture. God's ways are not our ways. They're different. And Jesus said, like, the first will be last and the last will be first. And that's what we must expect, Our society has favored men for millennia. That has been the social context we were in. And I think it's okay to say that God goes against that culture. And no, he doesn't see man as first, man as above woman. But really, if we look at the creation story, he made Adam and Eve equal. They're both made in his image. And that's what I see in Genesis. Their equality, their mutuality.